The project is the Loom Knitter's Glove. I designed it to protect specific areas of your hand as you knit with your tool. It connects with string and buttons to custom fit. And I chose a fabric design that is breathable. Hey, it's Denise from loomahad.com. For more information and a complete list of supplies, visit the website. Alright guys, let's begin. I'm using one strand of worsted weight 100% cotton. I'm going to do a basic knot to secure the yarn to the anchor peg. You can use a slip knot if that's easier for you. And we're going to cast on 23 pegs, so we're going to wrap each peg until we reach peg 23. Once we reach peg 23 and we knit off, we're then ready to turn around because we're knitting flat. So we're going back and forth instead of in the round, instead of circular. So we turn around and knit that peg again, peg 23. And now we're going to go back and we're doing the U-wrap version of the knit stitch. So go ahead and knit all of your pegs till you're back at peg 1. You're now finished with the cast on and you're ready for row 1. For row 1, you're going to do the 2-stitch pattern of the knit 1, purl 1, also known as a rib stitch. For the knit 1, you're going to turn around again because we're knitting flat, and you're going to do the U-wrap version of the knit stitch. You can also do the true if that's easier for you, and then bring the working yarn down below the existing loop and scoop it up, create a new loop, take the old one off, put the new one on, and you're going to pull, and that's your purl stitch. And then you're going to do the 2-stitch pattern again. You're going to knit 1, come back, put the working yarn under the existing loop, scoop it up, create a new loop, take the old one off, put the new one on, pull the working yarn, and that's your purl. And now you just continue to do that 2-stitch pattern until you're back at peg 23. Once you knit off peg 23, you're done with row 1 and we're ready for row 2. For row 2, it's simple. You're basically just going to turn around, because remember we're knitting flat, and you're going to knit the entire row. So you're knitting all of your pegs, all 23. Then you're ready for rows 3 through 24, where you're just going to repeat the first 2 rows, 1 and 2, 11 more times, and then you're ready for the cast off. But wait, before you do that, the glove is 4 inches long. If you want to make it longer, you need to add 6 rows for every inch you want to add. So let's start the basic bind off. You're going to take the working yarn and we're going to knit peg 23 and 22. So knit off and then take the loop off peg 22, move it over to peg 23 and knit off, and then move that peg from 23 over to 22. Now from this point on, you're just going to knit the peg that's in front of that peg, then take the loop off and take it back. Alright, and then take that loop, knit off, and take it back over to the one you just worked on. So you're always working with 2 pegs. So you knit off the one in front, take it back, knit off, bring it forward. Same thing, knit off, forward, take it back, knit off, move it forward. Knit the peg in front, move the loop back, knit off, move it forward. that's the basic bind off. Just keep going until you've done all of your pegs. And we're back at the front of the loom, and you're on the last few pegs, and you're going to knit the one in front just like you've been doing. Knit off, take the peg, move it over, and knit off, and that's your last peg. Now you get the scissors, and we're going to cut, leaving a kind of a long tail, not too long, just long enough for you to work on. I would say about 6 inches. Cut, and now pull the string to get the fabric off the loom. Next, you're just going to stretch your stitches like we always do, and you'll see that this one fits me. If for any reason you needed yours to be wider, you could use the 31 peg loom, by the way, and add more stitches to make it wider. Alright, now here's something I do. You don't have to. See, that's where we ended. We're going to go to the other end, and I'm going to tighten these cast on stitches. You don't have to do that. You could just leave them the way they are. See, they look kind of cool on the bottom, so you can leave them that way, or you can choose a different cast on so that your loops don't show up very loopy like they do here. For me, I just prefer to tighten those cast on loops, and I think it leaves such a nice clean finish to the fabric, and it will help to hold at the end. Alright, something I want to show you that everyone always has a problem with is that very last part of this technique, which I think if you loom knit, this is crucial. Tightening those cast on loops is awesome for your project. Alright, so you see this last one right here at the end. You have like a knot going on. Take that knot out, loosen it enough to get that first cast on, the one that you made the knot on, and take it out of the existing loop. I know this could put you in a panic, but don't worry about it. Look how the rest of the loops are going to come out through that last one. It won't do it if you don't take out that knot. And there you go. Your cast on loose loops are tight. And that's your first part. Looks good, huh? Alright. Once you're done admiring, then we can go to the next part. We need to add a little portion to it. You actually don't have to do this. If your fabric, your square piece will cover you on top and bottom, you can leave it that way. But once you add the buttons in the bottom, I'm going to show you, you're going to make sure that it reaches your wrist. That's why I said you may have to add more. And you can see that by yourself, you can put this glove on. You don't need help. And you can crisscross. I'm doing it around, but you can crisscross them if you want. And then if it closes enough for you, I don't think that it will, but because you don't want the button on your palm, so you need to add that little extra piece right here to connect it to the other one. You see? Because you want some of your hand to be open. This is where your hook lands. It lands on that end. So this one, you want to go ahead and add that extra piece. Alright, so let's do that. You're going to take this edge right here. Make sure you put it correctly. And you're going to add it to 4 pegs. So you're going to take your hook and you're going to find some openings right here. You need to make sure you have two of the loops, right? So make sure you grab from the correct place. The first one's a little tricky because it makes you feel like you only have one. So you got to go find that second loop, okay? So come down a little lower in order to grab 2 of them. Open it with your hook so you can see it really good, and then go ahead and grab those 2 and you're going to attach them to that first peg because we're remounting 4 stitches. Make sure you have enough of an opening. Don't worry if you have to stretch it. It's okay. It should be fine. I mean, unless your cotton yarn is like ancient or something's wrong with it, it should be enough to stretch it. And you're going to have like an in-between knot between them. So so that you have enough space between one and the next one to be able to hook it onto the peg. And that last one is going to be, you know, like, it's going to be crazy to try to put it on. If you have to skip one, don't worry about it. You could skip one. It's not going to kill it like I did here, but it's not necessary. You should be able to fit another one. But if you can't, then skip a loop. It's okay. It's not going to kill it. You just need to make sure you get 4 pegs on. And once they're remounted, then you can go ahead and work it, and we're going to add the yarn again to it, and we're going to add it by tying it right here as close to the peg as you possibly can. And I'm going to do 2 simple knots. If you have a better way of connecting your yarn, then by all means use a different way. This is my way of connecting yarn to my existing project. And then I do need to tell you guys that right here, when I went to knit, I did a little boo-boo, and I will show you right there. You see how my yarn is left behind? That's actually the yarn I needed to pick up and knit with, because at this point, I wanted to knit with 2 strands instead of 1. So I was going to pick the working yarn that was left from me tightening my loops. That one there, I needed to connect these 2. So I'm going to take the yarn I left behind and start knitting with it. If you didn't tighten your loops, then just add 2 strands of yarn instead of 1, only because I feel like this part of your glove needs reinforcement. So that's why I wanted to knit with 2 strands instead of 1. So I was grabbing the leftover yarn from me tightening the loops and the yarn that I was going to add. That was going to give me 2 strands, but I made that boo-boo. So if necessary, like I said, then just add 2 strands, and you're going to do 5, well, I did 6 rows. If you need your connector to be longer, then just add. This gave me about a little over an inch. So for again with this one, with 2 strands, every 6 rows is going to give you an inch. And then just like before, once you do the number of rows that you feel are necessary, then you're going to do the basic bind off just like you did before. Here at the end though, I just basically decreased a little just to kind of bend it over, okay? But it's the basic bind off that I did. And I did knit 1 more extra stitch just to get it a little more secure. Alright, then you can cut off your excess yarn, pull your string out, and stretch your stitches. Now, again, I want to reinforce. So I went back to the back part right there, and I cut some string. I don't know, I want to say about 12 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and I am going to reinforce that back section where my connector is. Again, only because I feel like that part of the project does need a little more strength. And anywhere you feel that this project might need a little more yarn, you know, feel free to get some yarn, thread your needle, and reinforce any section you feel needs to be stronger. For me, doing this little row back here, I felt like that was enough. And then I came back and I brought it from one direction to another. Right? I hope that's not confusing. And then I'm going to go see how the corner doesn't look so good. So I'm going to go ahead and make a knot here. And then I'm going to weave in these ends. I'm going to do it with my needle. If you like weaving in your ends with like a crochet hook, you can also do it that way. For me, I like using the needle, and I do prefer the metal needles now. I used to use the plastic ones, but I feel the metal needles are just so way more I don't know, stronger, durable. They work better. They help you work better. The little one, I'm also gonna, you can cut it, or just like the other one I did, you can get a needle and also weave it in. Now, I left the string on the bottom one and I used it. I had that string left over, but on this end, once I finish sewing, I don't have a leftover string, so I'm going to have to add one up here. So I'm going to add the buttons and the string. On the bottom, that was the string that was left over from the cast off. This one, which is the top portion, you're going to have to add one. You're going to have to add a string to be able to tie. So I'm adding, and then I just make 2 knots, and I'm going to show you how I reinforce that as well. Okay, so that's going to help me connect the top portion, right here. I'm going to connect the bottom like this, and this is how I'm going to connect the top portion of my palm. So first I'm going to go ahead and add a needle, and I am using a Coats heavy duty string thread. It's heavy duty thread, I'm sorry, right here for my buttons. And you'll see that I go back and forth a lot of times, almost until it's full. Then I'm going to put one on the other end to connect that one. But first, I put as much as I can handle, and then I'm going to reinforce. Okay, so we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then I make a knot in the back just to secure my my button. And you can do it as many times as you want. I do it twice, and then I cut and I clean that off, or you can put it in. And then I put one on the other side, and so there are 4 buttons. And see, I'm going to make sure that this is on the back side of my hand, not the front one. Now, to reinforce this and make sure it doesn't come off, I go back, I thread my needle, and then I make 2 knots. And then I know that, this string is not going to come off. I'm going to be able to connect. And then the end, I make a knot so it doesn't unravel, because cotton is 3/4 ply. So I make that knot. And now, this is how I'm going to secure my glove. See? And I try to make sure that those buttons are on the top and not in my palm, because when I go to work, I don't want that button to bother me. And there I go. See? My handle is held and I'm comfy. It's breathable and I can work. I love this glove. I hope you do too. Hey, in the comment section, let me know if there's any changes you would make to this glove that you would like to see, and maybe I'll make a second video. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Sharing the video helps me a lot. Like, comment, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe.